From Life, Law, and Lattes, this is Before Forever, a guided conversation series exploring the questions couples should ask before marriage or long-term commitment. Because strong relationships are built on more than love. They're built through honesty, alignment, and intentional conversation. Now here's your host, attorney, author, and life strategist, Nadia Gilks.
Hello and welcome back to Life, Law, and Lattes and our Before Forever series where we're exploring one meaningful conversation at a time. I'm your host, Nadia Gilks, and today we're wrapping up our first section of this series, the Core Identity and Value section. And honestly, this conversation may be one of the most important ones yet, because relationships are not defined by whether conflict happens. Conflict will happen. The question is, what happens when it does? Now, before we dive in, a quick reminder, if you'd like to follow along with the free Before Forever Reflection Workbook, you can download it anytime from the resources page at elegalcafe.com. That's elegalcafe.com/resources. It's there to help you reflect, process, and continue these conversations beyond this episode. Now, a lot of people grow up believing that good relationships don't involve fighting. But healthy relationships don't mean they're conflict-free. They're built on how people navigate conflict when emotions are high, communication gets messy, and both people feel misunderstood. Because when couples don't know how to fight fairly, small disagreements can quietly become deep resentment over time. Now, this episode is closing out our core identity and values section because communication affects everything else. Faith, money, parenting, intimacy, family dynamics. None of those conversations matter if two people cannot communicate safely and honestly with each other. So today's question: what are your conflict resolution strategies? Most people enter relationships with communication habits they didn't consciously choose. They learn them from childhood, from previous relationships, from watching how conflict was handled around them. Some people shut down completely. Some raise their voice. Some avoid conflict at all costs. Some need immediate resolution. And some use silence as punishment even without realizing it. The problem is, if two people don't understand each other's communication styles, they can begin seeing normal differences as rejection, disrespect, or emotional abandonment. And suddenly the argument is no longer about the dishes, the text messages, or the forgotten plans. It's about, you don't hear me, you don't respect me, you don't care. That's why communication is never about just words. It's also about emotional safety. I've seen couples who genuinely loved each other, but every disagreement turned into scorekeeping, defensiveness, criticism, shutdowns, emotional escalation. And over time, they stopped feeling emotionally safe with each other. Not because the love disappeared, but because the communication became damaging. I've also seen couples who disagreed, but still communicated with respect, accountability, honesty, and emotional maturity. And those relationships usually had something important in common. Both people understood that conflict was not about winning, it was about resolution. Take a moment to think about how you respond during conflict, when emotions are high. Do you become louder or quieter? Do you need space or immediate reassurance? Do you want to solve things immediately or avoid the conversation altogether? And when conflict happens, do you focus on understanding the issue or protecting yourself emotionally? Now think about your relationship. Can the two of you disagree without insulting each other? shutting down, threatening the relationship, bringing up every past mistake, or trying to win the argument. Because healthy communication is not about avoiding hard conversations. It's about creating enough emotional safety to survive them together. Let's pause for a legal latte moment. Poor communication patterns don't just damage relationships emotionally. Over time, they often affect co-parenting, financial decisions, conflict escalation, family dynamics, and eventually legal outcomes during separation or divorce. I've seen couples spend thousands of dollars litigating issues that were never truly about the legal issue itself. At the core, many of those situations were rooted in hurt, resentment, poor communication, or years of unresolved emotional conflict. And unfortunately, once communication completely breaks down, people often stop trying to understand each other at all. They move straight into defense mode, which is why learning how to communicate well before crisis hits matters so much. This conversation is not about finding the one perfect communication style. Every couple is different. The goal is to learn how to resolve conflict together in a way that helps both people feel heard, avoids anyone shutting down, and about learning how the two of you can repair after disagreement instead of damaging the relationship further. Because conflict itself is not the enemy. Contempt, cruelty, and emotional disconnection are far more dangerous. If this episode made you think differently about the way conflict shows up in your relationship, that's a good thing. That means there's an opportunity for awareness. And sometimes the healthiest thing a couple can do is simply recognize we may need to communicate differently than we have been. If you're following along in the workbook, this is a great place to pause, reflect, and continue the conversation together. If you don't already have it, you can download the workbook for free on the resources page at elegalcafe.com and use it throughout the series. Strong relationships are not built by avoiding conflict. They're built by learning how to move through conflict without losing your connection. Next time, we begin a new section, Relational History and Emotional Landscape. And we're starting with the question that may feel uncomfortable, but has very real-life implications. Do you have a criminal history, including misdemeanors, felonies, or expungements? Because sometimes what's in someone's past can affect your present and future far more than people realize. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it, subscribe it, wherever you're listening. Bring others into the conversation. Until next time, keep creating the kind of love you want to live in.
You've been listening to Before Forever, a guided conversation series from Life, Law, and Lattes. Download the free Before Forever Reflection Workbook at elegalcafe.com/resources. And until next time, keep asking the questions that matter.